they wanted, once the Woodsman burned down, they wanted another place that had a big floor and could dance and have functions. And so I asked Bubba, I said, well, Bubba, why did y'all build the community center? And he looked at me like I was...
So that he could have those men come in and have a drink. And he must have done all right, because he soon after that, within a year, moved his family out into this house here. So he must have had a good business.
The fact that it was on the water helped him get by a little law, didn't it?
The law was that he couldn't build another saloon on land. And so he built it on the water so they could row out there or wade out there or get there one way or another. He started to see this.
I see this as a fellow who reads and does a little bit of writing about history in this town. I see this by her granddad as probably the first civil rights movement in Port Aransas, Texas. Because at the Tarpon Inn, the foreign workers that Marcy is speaking of were often denied service there. And Mr. Matthews, all you need to service there was some jingle in your jeans.
Yeah.
And he didn't care whether he was speaking Croatian, Russian, Finnish, German, that you were welcome there. So I can see this as a very forward-moving thing your family did in terms of civil rights on our island.
How long was it there?
Until he got permission to, well, actually it got destroyed in America in 1919 or somewhere.
Ms. Bunny, you want to join us?
Oh, I was listening to her.
Well, yeah, well, come up.
Anything twice.
Come up. I want to introduce you to to our audience, Debbie Bundy. And would you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you reached back in time in Port Aransas?
Well, I was raised here. Yes, my daddy was here forever. My maiden name is McGarry. My daddy was known as Slim McGarry. He was a shrimper, and he shrimped for Louis Belcher. So I grew up with the Belchers and the Matthews and the Sims and all the older ones.
Yeah.
And
Same people I knew.
yeah. So that tells y'all how old I was. I am. There was 350 people on the island. That was our population at that time. In the summertime, they would be 500. And of course, we could wait for the guys to come, the rich guys, because we were poor. I mean, we didn't even wear shoes. We didn't have high school. We had the grade school. There was 8 of us in the 8th grade, graduated to the 9th. There was 8. There was Lily McDonald, Thomas Bowman, Thomas Lilly, Ethel Delano, Barbara K. Roberts, and we all lived right down here. Where y'all know now where the baseball field is, it was then called the Flats. And there was a big tall house that was A-frame. Y'all, some of you may remember the A-frame. And then they just went around. That's where we all lived. I lived where the Venetian hot plate is. At that time, it was a big sand dune, and we lived right on top of it. And I was raised in the Assembly of God Church, which is now the Law of Our Saloon. So I guess it's made it.
Now, you said you didn't go to high school,
They didn't have a high school.
and I don't think you went to high school.
They didn't have a high
No,
school.
I went to the ranches.
You had to go by ferry.
Aransas.
We would have to catch the school bus every morning. We went by ferry, come home. And that was when they had the old wooden causeway where you had to pull over because it's one lane. Most of y'all don't remember that, but I remember.
Well, you know, I remember that, and I'm not native to this island. My mother was very fond of Port Aransas, had been coming here, I guess, as a young girl. And my introduction to Port Aransas was on that causeway. This would be, I have a picture of me in 1948 at Wilson's, which used to be a whole place on the waterfront here. and I have a catfish on the end of my fishing line, not 5 years old. And on the back is, my name's John, John with his first, quote, trout. And I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, you know what? They told me it was a trout. And it was a big fat catfish. Later I learned that in fact catfish are cow tourist trouts. But my introduction to Port Aransas again was on the causeway. My mother, who was the first spirit I had ever met in the world, definitely the first spirit. She had a beautiful birth. She would get on the causeway. She'd put the top down. She would take a Schlitz beer. You remember Schlitz? She put it between her legs. She said, "Let's go to Port Aransas." And you talked about the cars kind of giving way. She'd get on the horn, and we went down the causeway, and believe me, we never pulled out one time. And eventually they knew that blue and white beer. You just moved over. So after a couple of years, Mom and I and the Schlitz beer, we got the ferry in just a matter of moments. Clickety-click, clickety-click. And the sound and the aroma of the salt water. It was a good way to remember my mom and Schlitz beer.
And it would go to Harbor Island, that was where we caught the ferries, on past where the treasure boat was. And there was a little store there, I remember, because we'd have to wait a long time for the ferry.
You had to buy your ticket there to get across.
Yes, you did.
Now say that again.
You had to buy your ticket to
A
get
bus
across.
ticket to get
Oh,
across.
that's where you bought the ticket.
You bought the ticket to get across the
Yeah.
channel.
Didn't you buy a ticket back at the causeway?
Yes.
Was there a place you paid? I remember some money.
Yes.
You also bought a ticket there at that to go.
Yes, you did. And in those days, there wasn't all the bars and there wasn't things to do. I can remember the movie, you know, the movie, which now is the retail shop. And then across the street now, it's a I think a souvenir city that's across this way from the movie. It used to be, I think, Gaulding's over 100 years ago. It was Gaulding's. And if you notice when you go past there, they have this little like balcony. We used to climb up on the balcony. There would be 5 or 6 of us. And as the people would come out of the theater, we would hit them with water balloons. That was our entertainment. Because most of us did not have TV at that time. So we hit them with water balloons.
Well, if you went under the porch, that was our, spending money, yeah, that was our money pit.
We don't know how it happened now, but back then we thought a lot of people dropped their money through the cracks at Sam's Food Mart. And the kids went under there and found nickels, dimes, sometimes a quarter, if you're really lucky. And we went out down there on a regular basis and we found money, but we
Now,
found
I never did this. Also, the other thing you did was you dig bottles. I never did this. You never did this. There a lot of them would go in the back, they would go on the back steps, that's where they kept the bottles. They get the bottles from the back and go around the front.
We just didn't have anything.
Sam caught it though.
Folks, do you want to introduce yourself to everybody?
Well, I'm Nancy Teller, this is Mark Teller, but this is Mary Jo Brunswick Matthews. And Mary Jo's daddy was Ansel R. Brunswick. The middle school is named after him. The pier on the end of Station Street is named after him. When the Brundards came and settled in Lamar, this is my
St.
joke.
Joe.
St. Joe. No, they first didn't land in Lamar. Okay. When they first landed in St. Joe, the Chronicle Indians said, "Let's get out of here." There goes the St. Joe.
That was in 1840s, maybe more or something.
And her name is Matthews and my name is Matthews.
But I went to Florida, got a different Matthews.
She's a 2T.
I got 2 T's from it.
My grandfather couldn't spell, and when he left Austria at the age of 14. He ran away from home and shipped out of France on an English bark. And they asked him what his name was, and he told them Tomas Andres Yukasevich. Well, they knew how to translate Tomas Andres. They didn't know what to do with Yukasevich, and they asked him how to spell, and he said, how the hell do I know? He'd been to school one day. And so they said, well, how about we put you down as Matthews? And they did. Put him down as Matthews, and he went by Tom Matthews from then on.
That's how
That's how we got one.
That's how they got theirs through Ellis Island. You came through, most people, they anglicize people's names. And it's either Matthew, Luke.
No, not my Matthew.
How did y'all get y'all's Matthew?
My husband's name is my tradition, and actually, it's longer than that, but they shortened it, and then when they had so much trouble growing up and moved to Florida, they just volunteered and changed it to Matthew, so then they so complicated, he was 12 or 13.
And they were from Ukraine.
They were Ukrainian.
Now, Mary Jo's father came here in 1918.
No, 1904. He was 4 years old. Actually, it might have been 1902. The newspaper article that I go back to was 1904, but he always said 1902. It was 2.
Well, Mary Jo's history is really rich. The Grundrets were one of the first people on the coast to even be here. Then your grandmother, what was her name?
Hannah, Mary Hannah Holloway, Brundred, Thompson, Gaston. And when she and George Brundred came down with covered wagon and probably took the route where they went down the Mississippi and took a steamboat down to Indianola and then came by horseback and ferry across. But anyway, at some point they were in Corpus and he was an alderman in Corpus, but they ended up on St. Joe's in a very short time. And because in 1846, his son was born on St. Joe, so they were there by then. But I don't know exactly when they got there. But my great grandfather George Brundred drowned off the boat, which is the story is some people say he was pushed off. Most stories say that he was knocked over by the boom, but he helped haul freight down to. I think it's south, not north.
But
Dan Parker, excuse me. I want you to listen to the fact that we're talking about St. Joe Island,
Yeah, I was gonna ask.
not San
You're
Jose.
saying somebody
St.
was
Joe.
born in St. Joe. I was raised over there, Daddy was fisherman and shrimper, but he had one end and the other man would take the other end of the net and they
Yeah.
would go out
Well,
fishing. There wasn't anything on St. Joe.
No, there was a population there, and I think 1876 is what I'm thinking when it
Yeah,
stopped.
because
So,
at that time.
in the 60s, there was a great storm of Indianola in the Civil War, and some people left the Civil War, some left because of the Great Storm, because it did destroy there too. But there were still people there was a population, my father said probably there were still 30 houses when people had to leave because it got sold privately. So when it was sold, everybody had to move off. And some moved to Lockport, Lamar. My grandfather's younger brother, my great uncle, moved with Hannah to Normanna and outside of Beeville. And so they had vast acreage out there. But my father's family moved over to where he was born later on St. Joe's Island. To Lamar. And his had 2 uncles that were already living over there. One was John Muskowski. He married twice. He had 20 kids, 2 women. And the other was George, and he had 16 kids. So there's a lot of Brundrets in the Rockport area because they came from Lamar and they settled at Blackjack Island. And one of my aunts that moved off of there, and they all seem to move around 1876. That's what I'm thinking. That's when they had to leave. And then anyway, she married a Bloodworth, which the wildlife refuge down there in Oswell got family down there. But my father's oldest aunt was Sarah Ann, and she married William Redmond Robert, who Roberts had a lot to do in the history of Port Aransas. Their son, Tom, was married Lydia Stevenson, and he was a lighthouse keeper for years, like 20 years. He was an assistant keeper, then a keeper.
Lydia Ann Stevenson,
Lydia Ann, yeah,
which is Lydia Ann Shannon.
yeah.
Can I ask Guthrie a question? In your research, what is you found to be the actual official name of the island? Is it St. Joe or is it San Jose? We have all kinds of
It's San
conflicts
Jose.
about
It
that.
started with Calipa.
But currently, what is the official name?
In 1973, the Texas legislature officially named that very island San Jose. That was an act of the legislature.
But of course, it's popularly known, probably most people
We
say
grew
St.
up
Joe,
calling
don't
it
they,
St.
Marcia?
Yes.
The Mercer
Now, I always
laws,
grew up saying that.
Yeah.
the Mercer laws, which go back between 1866 and 1877, referred to St. Joseph as St. Joseph's.
Mhm.
And the Brunderettes appear in those laws. Jed Brunderette,
That's my grandfather.
the great name.
There's
Living on St. Joe Island, the Brunderets living there.
Mhm.
And in 1876, you're right at a very important date on St. Joe, because St. Joe was privately owned. So was Mustang Island. The major owner here was a guy named William Little, of all places from Louisiana. And the Mercers and the very early families here in the 1870s actually leased from him. But the island, the St. Joseph was also privately owned. Mr. Little also had a heavy investment there. In 1876, it was called the Revolt on St. Joe's Island. The islanders ran the owner off the island. They were so upset about, I think, the lease money, that the owner was asking too much. And Corpus Christi sent a police force to St. Joe to reinstate the owner. I mean, and it was
That
soon
happened
after
that
that.
time. Well, see, I really think it was 1876 because some records that I have, some stuff where I know when one of my uncles moved from there. And then the others, it seemed like it was like at the same time. And Sarah Ann married William Redmond Robert, and that's very interesting. I was going to tell you about it. They were lighthouse keepers when the Civil War started. And they went to Lamar. Then very early he became partners with Ed Mercer for Orpile. So it's uncertain when they moved on the island, William Robert, Redmond Robert, and Sarah Ann. But I have a newspaper from 1912, and it said there was a new dry goods store trying to come into town from Rockport. And so they had big ads in the paper. And so I have like 3 different issues of this paper in 1912. Anyway, the next issue, there's a Robert's General Store, water, has an ad, and it says, "We've been your loyal storekeepers for 30 years." So, and this is in 1912. So back in 1980, they had a store there already. So I figured they were here before 1880. William and Sarah Ann, and then they had several children on the side.
Well, didn't one of your grandmother, something about she warned was it the Confederate?
Hannah Hollingworth, Brunger, Thompson Gaskin. She had a very colorful story for her from Civil War. Apparently, when the Yankees went over to St. Joe's and these Islanders fled, she had 3 small children, 3 girls, and one was a Mercer, by the way. She married that. Anyway, she had these 3 small children. She had a son that was probably about 14 or less, and then my grandfather was 16. And she said, "I'm not going to pack up all these kids and leave. I don't have any resources to go. I'm staying right here." And she did. And apparently they came on the island, didn't hurt her livestock or her house, and they just moved in her house with her.
Let me ask Mr. Teller a question. In photographs of Port Aransas, taken back in the 30s and probably the 40s, across from the Garden Inn is a house that is known as the Teller House.
Correct.
Would you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, all of it would have to be mostly live.
You're in good company. You're in good company.
All right, currently, that house has got a second-story addition, and it's further down on Channel View. Where the bank sits now is where it was. At that time, well, let's
Where
back up
Hooks.
a little bit.
Where Hooks is,
Where,
Hooks
yeah, where
Restaurant.
Hooks is at. Yeah, it was a bank, and that became Hooks.
And the Coast Guard station is next.
At that time, my grandfather and the kids lived over on Mercer Street, what became the Studeman House, and now is the
Kuchenberg.
Kuchlenberg House. Well, that was, Aunt Nellie got married to Henry Studeman. My grandfather was the captain of the station here, and they had built, okay, this is, where the Coast Guard building sits now, there was one there. And then they built one up toward the front of the property, closer to Clutter. And then they've since moved it back. So during the period of time they were building the one up toward the front, and this is where it's all speculation, but it's speculation with probably some grain of truth. The architecture was extremely similar. He built the house next to the Coast Guard station. The materials was extremely similar, so I'm assuming that he took the responsibility of cleaning up in the evening after the workers left. So that house got built, and it was early 30s. Because Grandpa probably died when 35, 36, I think.
He was the commander of
Yeah, he was
the Coast Guard
He
station.
both make chief, but, so he's captain of the Coast Guard station. And they moved there, and after he died, kids had grown up and got dispersed. Then over on Station Street, there was a little bitty one-bedroom house that I have vague memories of helping pound nails in the floor. Built that, or my dad and his brothers built that for Grandma Teller. Across the street was an uncle of mine that the Gates have now, that was Herman and Ada bought that house. And he since moved to Francis, then he moved up to the port. So the houses moved around, and it gets kind of cloudy on sometimes, but the old Teller house set beside it, and it was probably early 30s that was built. So that a wedding present was the house that he had lived in, raised. We got a picture on the wall. 6 out of the 7 kids. No, 5 out of the 7. My dad was the youngest boy. My Aunt Catherine is the youngest girl. She's the only one that's currently surviving over in Ingleside. All the rest of them now passed away.
Nellie was the oldest, and she was a girl. They had 5 boys in between, and then Catherine, the youngest, she was a girl. So you had girls on oldest and youngest. And Nellie Studeman, growing up, Henry Studeman started the telephone company. Well, he didn't start it, but he was like the first manager of the telephone company. And Nellie, you know, people used to help each other back then. My father died when I was about 8 years old. And my mother, we lived on Social Security, basically. And I had an older sister that was 7 years older than me. She was in high school when my father died. And I had a brother who was 12 years older than me, and he was a senior in high school, and he had to quit, and he went to work on the ferry boat to support his mother and his sisters. So, you know, there was people in town that would take up the slack. Nellie Studeman was one of them, in that Kathy was a cheerleader. You know, she went to school in Aransas Pass, and her and Bill both. But Nellie made Kathy's cheerleading costumes, any costumes she ever had for Sadie Hawkins. You know, there was always people around to either make sure that we were getting, you know, bringing us fish or helping out with the that was just real common, back then, it's for people to help each other out. And because a lot of us we didn't get off the island except for 2 times a year to go shopping downtown Corpus Christi, that was at Easter and Christmas. One time, you were so surprised.
You know what, that's, we got another folks from out here. Let me, take a break here for just a second and answer this question. And I think it'll probably go to Marcy. In the parade today, there was the Tina, which was a trawling boat, now retired and owned by the museum. And in the Tina, they had reenacted. Did you all see this? I missed
We
it.
were told.
I read it, I didn't see anything.
Mark refurbished the boat.
But and I'd heard at a meeting a while back, we planned this, and they pulled it off. They had someone there reenacting FDR on that very famous 1937 fishing trip. You would have been about first grade. Do you remember that trip?
Yes, I remember. Very well.
Tell something that this is a monster piece of Port Aransas history. What do you remember?
The president was coming to go fishing, and they asked my dad to be one of the guys. The other guy was Don Farley. And my dad was concerned about who was going to pay him for taking the president out fishing. He wasn't too excited about the job. And he told my mom not to bring my brother and me, here comes my brother now, Fred Matthews, my brother and me down to the waterfront to meet the president. He didn't want any show of any kind, because the day that he had the president out was the only time the president came near the island. And they came up to the dock, tied up, and stayed there. And the president did not get off my dad's boat, which, by the way, was named Marcy. Very similar to the boat that they've been riding around today.
So he didn't actually go fishing?
Beg pardon?
The president didn't actually go fishing?
Oh, yes, he went fishing. And he caught a big tarpon when he was fishing with my dad. He caught a tarpon the day he went out with Don Farley.
Oh, okay.
But he caught a larger tarpon the day he went out with my dad.
Yeah.
And another Farley, which was Mr. Barney Farley, the
Yeah,
second guy.
Barney Farley was on both boats. He was the master of ceremonies, so to speak. But my uncle Johnny Matthews was the one who was who actually went out to the president's yacht and was taken on board to make arrangements for things for Oasis. And he's the only one who actually went on the president's yacht the 2 days that the president was fishing here.
One of your points earlier, Marcy, that the president never actually stepped foot in Port Aransas.
He never did.
Right. He just came up in a boat and then.
And I have pictures of him sitting in the boat with my dad leaning over, and Elliot in the boat too.
My understanding that when they brought their boat over, they had a sling, they slung him over, set him down in the fishing boat, and he stayed on that, and after the crowd dispersed, it swing him back onto the boat to get back.
Right. They
But
really didn't want
The
him.
characters we had today, Fred, Manny Matthews, Ted Matthews' son, and Barney Farley,
Yes.
which was Barney Farley's son. So we kind of had some of the relatives of the originals. We couldn't find a relative.
And I bet a lot of y'all can guess who FDR was.
Okay,
Somebody y'all know,
yeah.
but you wouldn't have recognized him. It was Dino. I said, who is that guy? Somebody said, that's Dino. It's like, no. But Mary Jo's dad,
He mounted,
he mounted.
he's a tax witness, he mounted on. We have lots of pictures of the tarpon on display. Pretty.
Yeah, now, Mr. Roosevelt went ashore while he was on the coast though. He did go ashore.
Where?
Where'd he go? Do you remember? He went ashore at St. Joseph's Island.
Ah.
Mr. Sid Richardson owned that island very well.